Okay, I think we've got everything all set up now.
Desperately trying to find out if my date has an ex-murderer pent up inside of her. Yeah, that was his last entry. May 28th, 2008, a burglary took place at Jody's
Baby.
grandparents' home, where Jody lived. So Jody's grandparents had left her there, and after Jody left,
And my vape is
the
over here
burglary took
by the
place.
door.
And these damn burglars, they only took one thing: her grandfather's handgun stolen. So Jody told her grandparents, like,
Over there by the door?
broke in, stole your gun, but nothing else. Like, it just wasn't making sense, but it happened. It's random, but it'll make sense
Thank
later.
you.
On June 2nd, Jody made plans to drive up to Utah to visit her new love interest, Ryan. So before going to her trip to see Ryan, she first went to a budget rent-a-car in Redding, California. So Jody
Okay, let's get started, shall we?
Mind you, this place was more than an hour away from her home.
So I've already got my hair in.
Premeditated.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to put jewelry in.
Out a red car, and she tells them, "No, I don't want a red car." She felt like it would attract attention, so they gave her a white one instead. And off Jody went. Well, she was supposed to be driving to Utah. Her phone was turned off. She said it died, but then it was turned back on many hours later. Jody was supposed to get to Utah on June 4th, but she didn't arrive until June 5th. Jody called and emailed and texted Travis throughout her trip. She even left a voicemail on the night of the murder, rambling about making plans and how she was on her way to Utah and had accidentally driven
These are
100
not
miles
going
the wrong
in,
way.
and they're making me mad.
So when Jody returned the rental car, the floor mats were missing, and she mentioned that there was a Kool-Aid stain in her car.
Okay.
And that got me thinking. I wonder how many times, like, people who work at rental car places, this is just a side note, how many times they see Kool-Aid stains. During this time, Travis was back in Mesa, Arizona, getting excited because he was going on another work trip, but this time to Cancun, Mexico. So Travis was
Can
working
you come help
out,
me?
trying to get in shape.
I can't
because
get
he
this
was
earring
gonna
in.
be in a bathing suit and stuff, but he also invited Mimi, the woman that he was interested in. He thought
What do you
maybe
mean?
he could take her on this trip to Cancun, just as friends. He could show her around, show her a different side of
Yeah.
himself, and hopefully she would fall for him. That was the goal. But a day before his work trip on June 9th,
Ow.
nobody had heard from Travis. He missed a very important work conference, and many found that
Closing
very
really
unlike him.
freaking fast.
He wouldn't miss an important call like that. Mimi was trying to get in touch with Travis because they were supposed to be leaving to Cancun the next day, and she hadn't heard a thing. So a couple of Travis's friends, they're getting worried. Mimi also is like, I haven't heard from him, so they decide to all go over to Travis's house, knock on the door. They don't get an answer. Nothing. They know the garage lock code, so they go and they open up the garage and they get into the house. That's when Travis's roommate comes out. He was listening to like music pretty loud and just didn't hear them at the door. But he asked them, what's going on? Like, why are you guys here? And they're like, have you heard from Travis? And he's thinking, Travis already left for Cancun. He's been gone. And they say, no, he's not. Like, we're leaving tomorrow. We haven't heard from him. So they all go over to Travis's room. The door is closed and locked. The roommate gets a spare key and opens up Travis's door. So they open up the door and they get a huge whiff of something stinky. They look down on the ground and they see this huge, what seems to be a blood stain on the carpet. So then they look around and they see that there is blood everywhere in Travis's room. Travis's roommate goes further into the room, and that's when he finds Travis naked and in the fetal position.
Yeah, my wife already
in the
looked it up for me,
stand-up
but again,
shower
thank
of his
you.
ensuite bathroom. So Mimi, she didn't want to go into the room. She saw the blood stain, and that was enough for her. So she stepped outside and she calls the police immediately. So investigators, they go out to the crime scene, right? And they're asking all the friends, like, who do you think could have done something so awful? All of them were just quick to say, Jody. Jody Arias. Look into her. Stalker ex-girlfriend. She did it. Inside Travis's room, investigators were looking for DNA, fingerprints, hair, anything that could get to the bottom of this horrible crime. Now, based off of the crime scene, detectives knew that this was a personal attack. They saw that
I can't get
Travis,
this in.
he must have really fought hard and fought back, and it was just an all-around gruesome scene with blood smears down the hallway, on the walls, bathroom covered. It was bad. So Travis, he was
Okay.
stabbed a total of
Not
27 times. 27 times. His throat was cut. I feel like this is inappropriate while I'm doing my mascara. His throat was cut going from ear to ear, and he was also shot in the head. It was determined that Travis Alexander was murdered on June 4th, 2008. While Travis's friends all knew that it was Jody, they didn't technically have proof yet. So they had to carry on and planned a funeral for Travis with all of his friends and family. And somehow, Jody got word where it was when it was taking place. And this ballsy ass woman went to the funeral. She went to the funeral. That's a special kind of fucked up. Jody, no. Someone needs to tell her no once in a while. So around this time, Jody had called the station herself, asking to speak with detectives about the case. Now she calls them, right? She's like, hey, I just want to talk about the case. And then they're like, okay, someone will get in touch with you. So she was a little irritated because her call wasn't being returned. So she calls again. She's like, hello, yeah, I have some information that you might want. Finally, she gets through and she speaks to somebody. She tells this person, the detective, that she no longer lived there in Mesa, Arizona, and she moved to Northern California, but wanted to be of any assistance she could be. She told the detective the last time they spoke was on Tuesday. She ended up having a 41-minute conversation with the detective about everything and also just nothing. One thing stood out to the detective was the fact that Jody was telling him that Travis had been getting fit for his trip to Cancun, so there was just no way that someone like her could overpower him. And most likely it was two people who took him down. This is what she told the detective. So the detective's thinking, that's kind of like a weird comment to make, but okay. So at the crime scene, there was a bloody handprint left on the wall. The blood was taken in it in hopes for like a DNA or a fingerprint match. Also, while searching around the crime scene, investigators came across a small spot of blood on the washing machine. So they look at the washing machine okay, and they lift up the lid. There was bed sheets, but most of all, there was a camera. A black camera was left in the washing machine. It had gone through the wash cycle with bleach, but the camera was taken in hopes to find some kind of information. The camera's memory card had been erased, and the person who deleted them took 5 steps to delete these pictures, just proving that no accidents were made. If you have to take 5 steps, you know what you are doing. Do you get what I'm saying? That's what they're thinking. Anyways, on June 19th, the memory card from the camera was recovered, and the first picture that came up was a naked picture of Jody at Travis's house. But get this. It had a timestamp on the photos. Yeah, Jody. Hey, babe. Timestamp. Pay attention. Timestamp. On the photos it said June 4th, aka the night of the murder. Case solved. We got it. Hold on, because get this, because it gets worse. So they keep looking through the pictures. The next set of pictures were Travis naked in bed. Then, possibly to kind of get him in a vulnerable position, Jody seemed to have gotten Travis in the shower and began taking more pictures of him. So a photo was taken at 5:30 p.m. Travis in the shower, water coming down, and he's looking directly into the camera ooh. And it's believed that this is the last photo of him alive, because the following pictures were photos of what seemed to be the murder. Yeah, the camera kept snapping, catching Travis on the ground, blood coming from his head, with someone's leg in the picture. You see, what looked like happened, she took a picture of him in the shower, and then the next couple shots are the camera falling, it maybe got knocked out of her hand. It ends up on the ground, and it's just taking pictures. So you can't technically see Jody, killing Travis, but the timestamps, it's all lining up. It seemed that while Travis was in the shower, Jody began her attack. He tried to get away when she cut his neck, dragged him back into the bathroom where she shot him in the head, and then put him in the shower and rinsed off his body. She then deleted the pictures, so she thought, and then took all the bedding and the camera and then put them in the washer. Now it's believed that Jody just simply forgot to grab the camera and she didn't mean to wash it. Something that wasn't recovered from the camera was a sex tape that they had also made. I don't even know if it really exists or not, but like Jodi had asked the investigators later on, trying to like gauge how much they knew when forming her story. She's like, did you guys find the sex tape? And then when they said no, she was like, okay, they didn't find the camera. Police go out to Jodi's grandparents' house where she's living. So when they go out there, it's July 15th, and they're there to make an arrest. The police connected the dots that the gun used to shoot Travis was the same caliber of Jodi's grandfather's gun that was stolen in that random burglary, remember? So while at home, they discover a rental car that Jodi had packed with clothes, 2 knives, a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. She had a bunch of condoms, and she was also sporting her newly dyed brown hair. No one knows where she planned on going exactly with all this stuff. I would put money on the new boyfriend's place. So they bring her in for interrogation, and when bringing her in, she's handcuffed, and Jodi was all smiles, and they asked if she had anything to do with it, and she kept denying. Eventually, though, the detective busts out those photos that were retrieved from the camera, and he asks, is this you? And Jodi looks at this photo of herself and says, well, it looks like me. It's clearly a photo of her. She's butt-ass naked. He's showing her this picture. It looks like me. Jodi said that she did indeed go to Utah, and when they checked with Ryan, the guy that she was supposed to meet, he said that she did come, but she didn't arrive until June 5th, a day later than they had originally planned. He mentioned nothing was out of the ordinary. Jodi was all happy and seemed like she didn't just murder someone, you know? She's just excited to be there. Could you imagine a date comes over and you find out that they just literally murdered someone? So when Jodi was being interrogated, she maintained her innocence, saying, quote, if I killed Travis, I would beg for the death penalty. I don't know why she felt that was helping her cause, but she said that, okay? The detective tells Jodi that they found a bloody handprint on the wall. The handprint wasn't Jodi's, but after testing the DNA, it came back as Travis and Jodi's blood. So her blood was mixed in with Travis's blood, and then there was a handprint on the wall, which was Travis's handprint. So the detective is asking her, how would this happen then? And Jodi's excuse was that her DNA was already there in the room. That's why. So finally, he tells Jodi, look, it's game over. You are the one in the photos, and your DNA is in the bedroom. All signs point to you. Jodi's first question or response to that was to ask if she could clean up before she was booked. She wanted to put on some makeup before taking her booking photo. While waiting in the interrogation room, some of you may remember this, that's when Jodi was doing handstands. She's alone. She's doing handstands in the room. She's singing songs and talking to herself. It's very unusual for someone being booked for murder. But Jodi said that, she was in the room for hours upon hours. She was bored. She's innocent. She didn't kill anyone. So why can't she do handstands and sing songs? She's like, you guys are being so mean to me. I don't know about you guys, but I've never been in a meeting somewhere serious and thinking to myself, God, I wish I could do a handstand right now. She's just strange, this one. Jodi ends up getting booked. They don't allow her to put on makeup, thank God, because that would just be another thing that she gets, right? No makeup, takes her booking photo, sits in jail. The next day, she comes back and she has a brand new story. This time, Jodi wanted to tell the truth. She said that she was at Travis's house when 2 people, this is according to her, she said 2 people dressed as ninjas in all black and ski masks came busting into the door at night. She said that these people were trying to assassinate Travis. She wasn't sure why, but she knew that they were after Travis. Ninjas. Jodi said she was hit in the head and then passed out. When she woke up, she saw them in ski masks and heard Travis yelling for her to go get help. The attackers had gone through Jodi's purse, so they knew who she was, her address, her parents' address, etc. She said she fought off one of the ninjas, who was a woman, and was able to get away because they were really there to kill Travis and not her. Okay, so she gets away, she said. So the detective's asking, okay, well, why didn't you call 911 then? She said, because my phone was dead. She didn't want to call 911 in general because these ninjas or whoever these people were, they knew where she lived and where her family were, and she was afraid that they would kill her. So that was her news story. Okay? ninjas. The public became obsessed. I mean, this was a story with lots of
I find it
sex,
interesting
a
that
good-looking
this
couple,
murder took
people-
place on June 4th.
Sorry, people were heavily interested in this. When her trial began, there were many people trying to get into the
I'm
courtroom,
watching it on
and
is
many people just waiting
June
outside
4th.
until it was over. So when Jodi showed up for trial, she now had her natural hair. She was dressed in all frumpy clothes, and she had glasses on. Many thought that this was a plan to come off as innocent, like she couldn't hurt a fly. And honestly, she looked like that. Like she looked like a little librarian. No offense, librarians. But you know, like the old school librarian with the glasses and like she had like the crunchy bangs. Remember? New librarians are cool. I don't want librarians upset with me. I love the library. Many believe that that was all fake. Jodi said it's not fake. She didn't have access to hair dye anymore. Her eyes went to shit once she got locked up, and she couldn't help it that she looked like that. It's so frustrating because if you watch interviews with her, you want to believe her, and I don't know what that is. It's creepy because you're like, oh, she has a point. I think it's the fact that she talks so like calm voice and very innocent like, and you just, I don't know. During the court trial, they put together the whole story, what they think happened based off of the evidence they found. This is what they think happened. When Jodi went to take her trip to Utah, she filled up 2 gas cans for her trip from California to Utah. Now this was weird because there's plenty of gas stations everywhere. They were just trying to prove that this was premeditated. She didn't want to stop for gas. She didn't want to get caught on camera somewhere. Jodi then turned off her cell phone so she couldn't have been tracked. Once she got to Travis's house, not sure what happened once she got there, but at some point he let her in. They took sexy naked photos, and then Travis gets in the shower where Jodi's taking more photos, perhaps convincing him that these are like sexy shower photos, art. Jodi asks for the final shot of him staring right into camera. Then they believe that she stabs him in the chest. He steps out of the shower, falling forwards towards the sink. They believe he was coughing based off of the blood splatter. It's believed that Jodi comes behind him, stabs him a bunch of times in the back. Travis, still alive and fighting for his life, tries to break away and heads down the hallway. And then towards the end of the hallway, he falls to the ground. And it's believed this is where Jodi cuts his neck, drags him back into the bathroom, and then she shoots him, places him back into the shower to rinse him off. Jodi cleans up. She puts the bedding and the camera in the washer and then leaves to go to Utah, turning her phone back on once she gets to the main highway and pretty far from Travis's house. She then calls Travis's phone, texts, and emails him to make it seem like they had plans to meet in the future and that she's out driving. So during trial, Jodi then takes the stand and once again changes her story. This time, though, she does the worst of the worst. She puts the blame on Travis. On the stand, Jodi's crying, saying that Travis was controlling and abusive towards her. They asked, "Did you kill Travis?" And she says, yes. But that she did it because she was protecting herself. Because Travis was Mormon and they were having sex, Jodi used this to prove that he wasn't a good person. Side note, I'm not saying that this is true. This is what was presented in court. You get it. Okay, so she's saying like, you see, he was a good Mormon man, but I have all these emails, MySpace messages, and voicemails that prove he wasn't this religious man like everyone thought he was. Everyone thought he was this good Mormon guy, but behind the scenes, we were having sex. I have all of the voicemails because she recorded a lot of them. Just trying to show, like, see, nobody knew who he really was. Therefore, nobody knew that he was abusing me. There was one phone conversation she had saved where Travis told Jodi that he wanted to tie her up to a tree, and then they used this in court in hopes to prove that he was indeed like the crazy, aggressive one. Mind you, on this phone conversation, they were having like phone sex, and he's like, I want to tie you to a tree, which is like, okay, you know, I'm not here to judge. Have your tree fun. Yeah, they tried to flip it, which is just, it's sickening. She said that the day of the murder, she walked into the room. Wait, let me just tell you, this is upsetting. She walked into the room the day of the murder and caught Travis pleasuring himself. And while he was pleasuring himself, he was looking at a photo. Then she said she looked closer at the photo, and she realized that it was a photo of a little boy. She said that Travis had gotten to the shower and she was taking photos of him. Then Travis got super mad at her, dropped the camera, which led to those accidental photos of the murder. He then tried to attack her, but was able to grab a knife, stab him in the back. And then while he was down, she ran to the closet because that's where he kept his spare gun. Not spare gun, his gun. So she knew it was there. She goes and she grabs it. Jody said that she blacked out. Okay, she blacked out. She doesn't remember shooting him, dragging him, cutting his neck. No, she doesn't remember any of that. The next thing that she remembered was driving through the desert. So Jody's new defense was that Travis was beating her and that he was a pedophile. Like the lowest of low. It's so upsetting. It's stories like this that discredit a lot of women who are being abused. I just want to punch her in the face. That was her defense. He's a pedophile now. Changing her stories just like last week. Casey Anthony flip-flopping everywhere. So during sentencing, Jody was found guilty and the crowd inside and outside the court cheered. Well, inside the court, it was like little mumbles, but outside the court, people were just thrilled. So following is the day of sentencing. So Jody shows up. This is another oh my, I can't believe she did this. During her sentencing, Jody shows up with a t-shirt, white t-shirt, purple writing. It says Survivor on it. Survivor on it. Okay, a total slap in the face to Travis's family, who's, mind you, like right behind her in the pews. Are those called pews? In the seats. She goes on, tells the judge that she had the shirt made to show everyone that she was a survivor of domestic abuse. She's holding it up. This is to prove that I am a survivor of domestic abuse, and I will always remember to just stay strong. It's just so fucked up. I could not believe that. I was...
So I'm driving, so I'm going to do a voice message. So 2 weeks in a row now, we have posted this schedule, and in here and in the staff group that we do it every week. We do the schedule, we send it in here so you guys can see it, and then we also post it out there so you guys can see it so you don't have to scroll through here. It's pretty simple. 2 weeks in a row now, Sam has claimed she has no idea what we're talking about and that we did not post the schedule. And so she stepped down because it's obvious she can't do this job. This isn't the type of group for everybody. If you cannot do your job, no, because now this is again the second week in a row, and this is happening more often lately, where last minute we are doing the games. I do understand that there are some instances where Facebook is glitching. However, I'm not going to believe that every time. It hasn't even once happened to me where Facebook has glitched. So I don't really know how it's glitching or who it's glitching for, or if this is just an excuse that we've been using since Facebook did its really weird thing a couple months ago. And yes, some things have been messed up, but not once has my stuff not gone through when I've scheduled it or posted a picture with it or whatever. Guys, this isn't the group for everybody to run. It's a fun group sometimes to just be a member, but it is not a group for everybody to run. And if you cannot help run it and make our jobs easier, you should not be a staff member, and you need to get that now. Because I've gotten to the point where now I'm going to call some people out. I'm basically doing all of Belina's job because nobody else is posting the games in that group. Guys, making the games and scheduling them is the easiest part. If you accepted a job, you need to be doing that job's requirements. If you're not going to do them, sooner or later, you're just going to find yourself not in this chat. Because I'm done talking about it. I'm at a point where you're causing us more stress. You're causing the founders and the council more stress than you're helping with. So, and if this sounds mean, I'm really sorry. I don't like to sound mean all the time, but
she got real. Sorry guys, I run or help run groups on Facebook, so I have to send these real quick while I'm thinking about it. Like, oh. My workday just never ends, never ends, never ends. Ooh, ooh. It was pink. Green. And blue. And then more green right in the corner of eye. A little more green, a little more green. Let's make it a little more obvious. It's there. Yeah. And then we blend. Thank you, Yuki. Aw, thank you. I'm gonna get all up in your faces for a minute, sorry. And then we blush. Add a little to the nose area so it doesn't look as pale. And then we set. And that is it for that look. Be sure to join me later when I do a look for the drag show portion for tonight at the Pride Festival. It'll probably just be basic makeup. I don't know. I haven't really decided yet. Although since there's 31 flags, I may pull one of the flags out and do that instead. So just be here later.